And this is Israel has been doing for the past 20 years very successfully, by economical attrition, by economical temptations, by separation, disconnecting Gaza from the West Bank, by vicious military attacks against Palestinians, both in the West Bank and Gaza, by all sorts of means, restrictions on movement which sometimes we feel are far worse than those restrictions on movements put on blacks in South Africa, apartheid South Africa.
Amira Hass, the big issue right now is the reaction to the Goldstone report within Israel, around the world. The Israeli Prime Minister has repeatedly said that the report will negatively impact the peace process. This is something Judge Goldstone has refuted. But what's your take on this? How will the...
Lieberman said it, right?
Yes, Lieberman, and this weekend, Benjamin Netanyahu said it as well, I believe.
Yeah, and just a week or 2 weeks ago, Lieberman said that nobody should expect a peace solution in the near future. So what kind of, I mean, will it obstruct from 20 to 30 years? I mean, what does he mean here? Look, there is a joke. I mean, the peace process and the negotiations have been a joke for the past almost 15 years, and certainly for the last 10 years. We don't expect that the Israelis will change now their course in the negotiation process and agree to things that they did not agree so far. Dismantling all settlements, not just the unauthorized outposts, stopping the scandalous ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, bringing Gaza back to the occupied territories by means of allowing Gazans to connect back to their brothers in the West Bank. So I don't see that that there is a change, such a change in Israeli society and in Israeli policy making that will give the negotiations the essence that they have lacked so far.
Talk about who Judge Goldstone is, the significance of his history, a South African judge heading this report, known as a Zionist. His daughter did an interview on Israeli radio saying, my father loves Israel, he is a Zionist.
He's Jewish, I mean Zionist, but for me what's important is what he said about himself. As a Jew, he felt compelled to relate to the facts, to those facts, and to denounce what he saw as crimes, or to alert fellow Jews in Israel. I think this is much more. What is a Zionist if he still lives in the state? I mean, still lives. Instead of going to Israel, he moved. I think now he lives in New York, or at least part-time. So what sort of a Zionist he is? But he supports the state of Israel. Okay, the existence of the state of Israel. But he remained a South African, so he did not choose Aliyah, immigration. But for me, the fact that he is Jewish is very important, and he takes from Jewish tradition the sense of alarm at such gross violations of rights, of human rights.
Amira Hass, can you trace for us the status of the Goldstone report and also talk about the role that Mahmoud Abbas played a few weeks ago that was widely condemned by a lot of Palestinian factions and the public in the streets of the West Bank and Gaza? The U.S. condemned the report, but the Human Rights Council endorsed it last week. Can you trace what happened and what the status is now and what's expected to happen next?
I'm not so good at status things, but I think now, after it has been adopted by the Council, it has to be forwarded to the UN Security Council, or first, I don't know if first for the Assembly and then to the UN Council, which is supposed to vote. And we assume that America will veto it, or that it will not accept the recommendations of the Goldstone report to ask Israel to open an independent inquiry to the allegations. And if within 6 months there is no sufficient or satisfying response from Israel and Hamas, for that matter, it can be transferred to the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. These are the recommendations of Goldstone.
And what is the significance of this, to refer it to the International Criminal Court?
The significance is that the sense of impunity of Israel with all its conduct vis-à-vis the Palestinians can be ended. This is the first...
And what's the likelihood of an internal investigation?
You know, the truth, I cannot guess. I cannot guess. I don't... we hear conflicting remarks by several Israeli officials, and... but you see how the Goldstone report is important, because for 6 months there has been a lot of information going on about the attack. And I've been publishing in Haaretz since January, almost since January when I got to Gaza. I've been publishing, and Haaretz was publishing my reports, because it's still so much I could not finish it in a week time or 2 weeks. I stayed 5 months in Gaza after the attack. After the onslaught, by the way, I don't think that the word war is correct. There was no war between two symmetric parties. I see it as a war, as an attack, as a mess. And this is, by the way, what Breaking the Silence people noticed from when they spoke to soldiers. A massive, wet, what we call wet training exercise of the Israeli forces, with live ammunition. So a massive exercise, and I see it as a massive exercise for wars to come, not for wars that were, but for wars to come, using all the sophisticated, almost science fiction weaponry that Israel has, against what I see Native Americans with their arrows. That's if I'm asked to make a comparison, this is that's why I cannot use the term war.
So you'd say
I say onslaught, attack, and...
the rockets of the Palestinians?
Look, I think that the rockets of this is where I differ from the human rights language. My argument with them is about, indeed, morality and about usefulness for the struggle for liberation. Is it useful or not? I think that the whole rockets thing is a theater, is a make-pretend for internal use, for the Palestinian internal use, to say, oh, we are fighting against the occupation. It's putting people in total misconception, because Hamas has not delivered in improving people's life. So they go to the realm of imaginary fight and imaginary struggle for liberation, comparing themselves to Hezbollah, based on no facts, I mean, on a lot of lies. Which doesn't mean that but the thing here that when we concentrate so much about the rockets, we think we completely forget the minute by minute violence that Israel is exercising against the Palestinians. When borders are closed, when all exits to Gaza and out of Gaza are closed, this is violence. This is daily violence. When children do not have pens and pencils and paper to use in schools, this is violence. Everybody's talking about food. Food is not the problem. The problem is the right of Palestinians to produce, to create, to export, to travel. And this has been violated for 10 years already, before the rockets were launched from Gaza. So this is, but the Goldstone report forced Israel to look at testimonies and evidence that was there all the time, but it was very easy to ignore, because they were saying, oh, it's just all these journalists and these marginal journalists, and so far our soldiers have not told anything, so everybody believes our version. All of a sudden, the scope of the attack against Goldstone report shows that they take it seriously.
We're talking to Amira Hass. She just won the Lifetime Achievement Award from the International Women's Media Foundation in New York before about 500 people, mainly women, at the Waldorf Astoria yesterday. You land in the United States in the midst of a big battle within Human Rights Watch, the human rights organization. Its active chairman for 20 years, now founding chair emeritus, Robert Bernstein, wrote an op-ed piece in the New York Times that is very critical of his own organization. I just wanted to read a quote of it to you. He says, leaders of Human Rights Watch know that Hamas and Hezbollah chose to wage war from densely populated areas, deliberately transforming neighborhoods into battlefields. They know that more and better arms are flowing into both Gaza and Lebanon are poised to strike again, and they know that this militancy continues to deprive Palestinians of any chance for peaceful and productive life they deserve.